Hello, my name is Holly Couch, and I'm a Literacy Instructional Facilitator and Dyslexia Coordinator at Nashville School District. This is a project for Dr. Woodall's Assessment and Programming for Special Education class through Henderson. And today we're going to talk about goal writing for IEPs. So if you will, follow me as we go through the PowerPoint. What is an IEP? It's an individualized education program or plan. It's a written document that's developed for every public school child who is eligible for and receives special education services. It's a plan that's created by a team of professionals. It's reviewed at least once per year, and it is the overall plan and goals and desired outcomes for that student as they progress through their education in a public school. Several people who are involved in the life of this special education child are involved in the creation of the IEP. Parents, who know the children better than anyone, are consulted and their opinion is valued in creating the IEP. General education teachers, special education teachers, testing specialists who have conducted any placement testing the child might have had, a special education supervisor. In Arkansas, we call those an LEA supervisor. Representatives from transitional agencies, if appropriate, if a student is going to work or do some kind of training off campus or transition to an assisted living facility or some other type of facility like that, then those representatives would be consulted and their opinions included in writing the IEP. And when developmentally appropriate, and if it's of an appropriate age that the child can contribute, the student also contributes to the IEP. One of the main important parts of the IEP are goals. Goals are based on what is discussed at IEP team meetings. They're based upon the student's present levels of education performance. Goals focus on the needs of the student that result from the disability that that student has, and the goals should be prioritized in order of greatest need. The goals are the central focus of the IEP because it is those that dictate what outcomes are desired for that student, as well as what actions will be taken to arrive at those outcomes. So the goals are very important. Well-written goals are SMART. SMART is an acronym for specific, measurable, attainable, results-oriented, and time-bound. Now we're going to go through what each of those words mean and an example of a poorly written goal as well as a well-written goal. Specific means a goal must name the skill and the subject area in detail. Here's an example of a non-specific goal. Johnny will improve in reading. That is so broad and vague that it's not able to be measured. Here is a specific goal. Johnny will read a passage out loud at 100 words per minute with fewer than 20 mistakes. That is something that is specific, and we can measure it to see if he has achieved that very skill. That is an example of a specific goal. That's a good goal. Next, a goal must be measurable. A goal must be written so that the child's progress can be measured by some concrete measure, such as a standardized test, a curriculum-based tool or assessment, or a screening. Here's an example of a non-measurable goal. Jane can solve math problems with the aid of a calculator. Well, that's not measurable because it doesn't tell how many problems, it doesn't tell the level of difficulty of the problems, it doesn't tell what type of math problems. It's entirely immeasurable, and it's also non-specific, referring back to the S in SMART. Here's an example of a measurable goal. With the aid of a calculator, Jane can solve computation problems with fractions and decimals with 70% accuracy. So now we have what types of problem they are. They're computation problems involving fractions and decimals and there's a measure of how accurate we want Jane to be as she achieves this milestone. Next, a goal must be attainable. That's the A in SMART. A goal must represent realistic progress for the student. Goals need to be lofty enough to challenge a student, but they also have to be realistic so as not to demoralize a student or to set goals so high that there's no way that they can be reached. Here's an example of a non-attainable goal. Johnny will write at grade level with 0 errors in spelling or punctuation. That's not realistic for a child receiving special ed services. 0 errors is pretty unrealistic for any student in some cases, and especially at a grade level. So here's an attainable goal for Johnny. Johnny will write a paragraph with at least 5 or 6 words or more, 5 sentences, of 6 words or more, with no more than 3 spelling or punctuation errors. That's within a normal, acceptable, realistic range for that student to accomplish. It gives enough leeway so that that student can attain it, but also it is realistic and doable for the student. Next, the R in SMART is results oriented. A goal clearly explains what the child will do to accomplish the goal. What are the actions? Sometimes you'll see the A in SMART as talking about action words. What are the actions that this student will achieve and accomplish in order to meet the goal? Here's a non-results oriented goal. During playtime with the other children, Jane will have good eye contact with peers. Well, we've got to explain that much more clearly. Good eye contact is vague, and there's what's the result? What do we want Jane to get from good eye contact? That should not be the end result of that particular goal. So here's a way to write the goal much better and much more results oriented. During small group activities, Jane will look at the speaker in the group at least 80% of the time in 4 out of 5 opportunities. So we're going to give Jane more than one opportunity to accomplish this, and we want her to pay attention to the speaker and to make eye contact, to look at the speaker 80% of the time. That's something that is measurable, it has an action, it's specific, so it hits on all the goals that we want it to. And there is a result to that we want Jane to look at the speaker so that it can increase her attention and also improve possibly social skills. But this is an example of a good results-oriented goal. And last, time-bound. A goal must include a time frame in which the student will achieve the goal. It will also state when and how often progress will be monitored. This is very important as well. We have to put some time restraints on these goals because otherwise they could stretch out to the end of a child's educational career. And that gives us no data to tell whether progress is being made or not. Here's an example of a non-time-bound goal. Johnny will be able to orally explain selected vocabulary words with 80% accuracy. Well, there's no time restraints there. Is he going to be able to do this in a year, in a month, after 1 unit, after 1 semester? So a much better way to phrase this goal to make it time-bound is this. By October 31, Johnny will be able to orally explain selected vocabulary words with 80% accuracy. His progress will be monitored through weekly language assessments. So we've given a definitive deadline as to when we want Johnny to achieve this goal, and we've also given ourselves a time-bound monitoring time frame, which is weekly. We're going to look at his weekly language assessments to see if he's making good progress toward orally explaining vocabulary. So this acronym of SMART gives us some good overall guidelines as to correctly frame a goal for special ed students who are working within an IEP. All of this is to achieve the ultimate outcomes of an IEP and special education in general. This comes from our textbook. All students in special education are expected to leave school prepared to accomplish the following: to live independently, to enjoy self-determination, in other words, to make selections about their life and decisions about the quality and the pursuits to make them happy in their lives, to make good choices, contribute to society, to pursue a meaningful career, and to enjoy integration into mainstream areas of American society. These are the ultimate goals of special education and really public education in general. We want all of our students to be able to do these things upon graduation from our high schools. SMART goals help us achieve this purpose for special education children. To sum up, some important final thoughts. Number one, IEP goals should never be vague or general. That makes them not only non-specific, but also hard to measure. No results attached to them and no time frame. And remember, the acronym well-written IEP goals are SMART, S-M-A-R-T. Specific, measurable, attainable, results-oriented, and time-bound. Good IEP goals help a child more fully benefit from a special education program. And we want every child to be able to succeed, so it is up to us as general education professionals and special education professionals to write goals that are SMART in every way, so that that child can have the best education possible. Thank you for your attention, and I hope that this SMART goal presentation will give you some strategies for writing good IEP goals for your students and for setting the kind of goals that will help them have the best outcome of all possible in their public education. Thank you.